The best and worst part of WWF's new generation was the obsession with wrestlers having jobs. We had a baseball player, a lawyer, a monk, Repo Man. I say bring it back. In amongst that, though, there were some characters who were even more nuts that they came and went so fast, nobody remembers them. So my name is Simon Miller, and let's change that today. Number 10, Von Krus. Now, I definitely haven't pronounced that correctly, and nerds like me may see Von Krus and go, that's Big Vito from WCW. You are correct, you have a very good eye. He also appeared in ECW and in WWE for a short while post the company taking over wrestling in the 2000s. Von Krus existed in 1991 to 1993 though, and clearly we were seeing what we had. He was mostly involved in enhancement matches, although he did fight and lose to The Undertaker. It's not the worst. In 1993 he also appeared on Raw twice, so he must have thought the big contract was coming. Nope. Even though he faced Typhoon and Tatanka, clearly Vince McMahon didn't see what he wanted, and he got released. Did not let it stop him, though, because he would return. Number 9, Tank. So this was right on the cusp of the Attitude Era, but look at it this way. The Truth Commission came together while they were sort of feuding with Bret Hart. These were the dying embers of the new generation. While they would evolve, at first we had this guy in a very Gimp-esque mask, who was also known as Tank. That's right. The reason you have no recollection is because he worked one match for Shotgun Saturday Night in June 1997, when Don Callis was brought into the group and old Tank headed to WCW. The best part, though, is that this was Mantor. That's right. The reason we put him under the hood is because WWE was worried people would remember. And given this list, go back to 1995 and just look at Mantor. That's a real thing we did on TV. It was never explained why Tank wore this mask, but you can see why. The truth was way better than anything the company could ever say. Number 8, Rad Radford. Somebody must have been reading Marvel Comics at this time. That is the most Stan Lee name ever. Some fans may recognize this guy, however, as it was Louis Spicolli's first big break. He debuted in April 1995 as some sort of Nirvana Pearl Jam fan, and there is no way Vince McMahon had heard of those bands. He liked wrestling and nothing else. Sadly, Radford had some personal issues which saw him depart the promotion in 1996, but I tell you, given the music he was influenced by and the time period, this was actually okay, and dare I say it, it may have had legs. Rad did work the 95 Survivor Series, and if it weren't for these extracurricular activities, Lewis could have gone on from there. Sadly, he did not. Number 7, Well Dunn. With Dunn being spelt D-U-N-N, so flubbing ridiculous. For some reason, Timothy Well and Stephen Dunn also wore thongs over their singlets, and they were managed by Harvey Whippleman. This was 1993, and even fans from the period thought this sucked because it sucked. Amazingly, they were meant to be considered heartthrobs too, even though their ring attire did not convey this, but man, they really did hang on. Despite barely having any matches, they were with the then WWF for 2 years. The issue was the entire team was based on a bad joke, and yeah, it's never going to have much longevity. It's like the Ding Dongs. Actually, you know what? I don't want to talk about it. Number 6, Bob Cook. Now, Bob Cook is here because in the mid-90s, he was one of those WWF super enhancement talents. He lost to everybody. He wasn't just some random dude, though. Throughout the mid-80s and early 90s, Cook was quite the regular with the NWA and WCW. He really could go as well, as his last match of me talking was April 2024. The real question is, how did Vince McMahon see the last name of Cook and not make this guy a wrestling chef? I don't think we've ever had one of those. How did he contain himself? Bob had quite the list of opponents too, as he fought the 1-2-3 Kid, Bam Bam Bigelow, Lex Luger, and the British Bulldog, which is not too shabby at all. It's kind of weird that he didn't hang around. Number 5, Abe Knuckleball Schwartz. Now look at this guy's face. Does he seem familiar? Because it should do. Once you get past the face paint, you will see the Brooklyn Brawler. The real-life Steve Lombardi actually first played this character in 1993, but it never made it to TV. But when the MLB went on strike in 1994, Vince McMahon decided to take a shot and bring it back. While this strike would last till 1995, this persona did not. Doesn't take a genius. McMahon was bored of all this within weeks and told him to go back to being the Brawler. What an absolute waste of time. For some reason, Steve was then told to do this again as a one-off in 2007, mostly so Triple H could make a joke about it. That was weird. Only the hardest geeks would understand that one. And of course I did. I am a nerd. Number 4, Tekno Team 2000. This is even more ludicrous now as we are way past the year 2000 and the idea still doesn't work. Look at this picture though. This is what WWF writers thought the future looked like at the turn of the millennium as Travis and Troy arrived as Tekno Team 2000. They also wore moon suits, I think, because space is always the answer. And let me make it clear, they were meant to be from the future. They had traveled back in time and therefore had knowledge that was going to help them win wrestling matches. I mean, that is actually amazing. Clearly the powers that be realized they'd taken this a step too far because while they did have a few matches in 1995 and 1996, these were fleeting at best. I still believe if management had treated them with more fun, it could have clicked. But instead, we were serious. This was Back to the Future 4, made by a child. Number 3, Quang. In January 1994, the WWF signed Savio Vega, put him under this mask, and called him Quang. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? He was also pitched as the mysterious martial artist, and somehow this lasted to the summer of 1995. Only then did somebody decide to recast him as Savio, a hard-hitting dude from the streets. Surprise, surprise, that worked as he was so good at this, he found himself feuding with Razor Ramon, and he got a push to the point we still remember him as a character today. Los Barricas were pretty badass. If nothing else, what came before did feel borderline offensive. This was another issue with the mid-90s. The WWF thought this was fine and just bought into every single stereotype imaginable. Number 3, Xanta Claus. That's right, Xanta, with an X. I've honestly no idea how I've stuck with wrestling for so long. This was future ECW star Balls Mahoney, though, who was brought into the WWF thanks to Ted DiBiase. Why did he do this? To tell the kids of the world there was no such thing as Santa Claus, because Xanta Claus had taken over. Look, don't worry, this was a bad guy being a bad guy. Of course Santa is real. If you must see this, go to In Your House 5 where you can see Claus take on Savio Vega, which does tie into this list. Sort of. Maybe Savio told Balls, this sort of gimmick is no good, because as soon as it was over, Mahoney was released. It is crazy all things considered, however. I mean, what else was this guy meant to do? He was literally told to be the bad version of Father Christmas. Number 1, the Black Phantom. Wait a minute, isn't that Tank? Apparently not. It also looks like WCW's Black Scorpion, which is the real shock here. That was one of the worst characters World Championship Wrestling ever did. I mean, just go and watch it, you will be stunned. In 1993, the WWF seemed to copy this, because look at the guy. But guess who was under the hood? It was the future Gangrel. What a world. He kept this up for 2 years too, which is very impressive, as he also took on the 1-2-3 Kid, Earthquake, Lex Luger, Razor Ramon, Tatanka, and the British Bulldog. It's a pretty good list. Do not forget this also means he left WWF for 3 years before coming back as the Vampire. But man, did he smash that. We still talk about him today, and Gangrel continues to make towns all over the place. That dude is a proper underrated worker. Know of any other new generation talents you want to talk about? Then make sure you drop us a comment below before you like the video, share the video, and please do subscribe. You can also click the video on the screen to learn about more mysterious figures from other WWE eras, but otherwise, you take care, my friends, and I'll speak to you again soon.